will join
well,
us
first of
in a minute.
all, we say hi, hello.
Hi everyone. Right, hopefully you're joining us not just when we're going live, but also see us later when we when you can look at this page later on. So we're going to talk today about some of our experiences with India. Give us some thumbs up when people come on, because then we can see that people are there, because we're doing this from a Facebook page, a business page, so it's a nuisance because it doesn't show us everybody. Okay, I can see a few people. Hello, you wonderful people. Now that sounds like my sort of person. Yes, and hello, folks. Okay,
Ronnie,
good. Okay.
hello.
We've got a few of you here. Right, we're going to talk a bit about India generally, and some of our experiences. So we might have to repeat this a bit as people come back online. But yeah, I've been there 3 times. Jane's been there once. But all of the experiences we've had there have been absolutely amazing. And they were fairly substantial stays, not just your usual holidays. We toured India, I toured the whole of the north of India. Later on, I toured the whole of the south of India. And together we went to Bangalore and to put a party
And we
where we saw Sai Baba.
Yeah, we stayed there for about 3.5 weeks in Sai Baba's ashram. And that's quite an experience in itself, because you really got to believe in karma when you go there, because we had to get in an old Morris Minor.
Well, actually, why don't you describe the actual arrival in India? I thought it was amazing, because Jane was not really keen about going to India, because it's not the cleanest of places, is it really?
Well, I was keen to go and see Sai Baba.
Well, first of all, who Sai Baba is, because not everybody will know who Sai Baba is, will they?
Well, he's an avatar, you can explain.
Well, he's what they call an avatar, which is a god man in India, that would be sort of thing. How we got involved in him is a long story, but it kind of happens to you in a way that you just can't expect. You can't explain it. I first saw him in a dream, for example, and then found out who he was later. And he is a holy man in India who's looks a bit like Jimi Hendrix. There's been a lot of controversy around him lately, but that's a lot of nonsense, that controversy. But obviously you've got to be discerning about things and make your own mind up about this. But certainly heard stories from people who are coming back from India, talking about a man that could materialize things, that could read your mind, that knew everything about everything you'd ever done, could appear to you in a dream, could heal people, could raise people from the dead. Of course, there were books out there on it as well as talking to people who were giving us their personal accounts. And eventually we said, we got to go and see Sai Baba in India, because this is just too amazing stuff. And particularly since you have a dream. Once you have a dream, not always, but when you have a dream of Sai Baba, he'll often tell you, come to India, and that pretty much happened to us. In fact, I dreamed of the person that we went with. Actually, I never told you that, but I had a dream of a person called Carol.
Funny how you keep telling me these things later on, isn't it?
Just because you don't read my books.
I have selected.
It's all in there. But yeah, and so, I certainly felt we didn't have a lot of money at that time. We were just living on readings. And really, it was it was a lot of struggle at that time, about 1998. I think it was. It's
before then.
Was it before? Not quite
1994.
Sure. No, it wasn't as late as that. It was about 1998, I think we went. And anyway, it was in the 90s. And yeah, it was a struggle to get the money together. And remarkably, I managed to get the money together to take us to see Sai Baba.
It materialised, didn't it, Craig?
It didn't come from nowhere. It took work to get it. It did take a lot of saving and work to get it, because it was only about £2,000 to do it. But that was a massive amount to us.
Anyway, when you actually go to Sai Baba's ashram...
Well, tell them about your arriving, because you were going to say about what it's like when you get to India.
Don't you? Well, actually, when the plane landed, which was in Bombay then, we had 1,000 flies greet us, and nothing prepares you for the poverty. We've seen people sleeping in trolleys.
That was Bangalore you're describing, actually.
Yeah, but
Bombay was just as bad, actually. Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
Anyway, and then we had so many hands trying to help us take our luggage.
I remember you said, "Go and get a trolley," and you go and look at the trolleys, and every one has somebody sleeping on it.
I've already said that, Craig. Thank you very much.
Sleeping on the trolleys.
You didn't listen to me. Anyway, when we got in this Morris Minor, our luggage was tied up with string, and it really driving fast, and you're just missing lorries, so you have to really believe in karma there. Anyway, it was a beautiful journey. We saw lots of interesting, beautiful things.
It was about 150 miles, I think, from Bangalore to Puttaparthi.
So anyway, we saw lovely lakes with nice lotus flowers on, and when we actually arrived, it was...
Had to push the car to get it started.
Craig, when we actually... Shut up.
Well, I'm saying you're missing all the best bits.
Yeah, the best bit's me on it. So when we actually arrived there in this beautiful pink and blue ashram, like a temple, we had to check in. And it made us laugh because the first thing the Indian people say, "Oh, foreigners, come here." It seemed funny. And we were taken into a room, and it had just a tap which you could put your feet under to shower. And you were quite jet lagged, quite tired. And we had to go in the afternoon, what you call darshan. That's in presence of a holy man. And you had to queue up, and you had to draw straws to get in. And like any holy man, you don't sit with your feet pointed, you have to sit cross-legged. And I remember taking some letters for people to be healed by Sai Baba. Anyway, when we went there that afternoon, it was raining heavy. There was monkeys running around, children crying. And all of a sudden, we saw this little orange figure come further and further with this massive hair like Jimi Hendrix. And the monkeys stopped still. Children just stopped crying, a beautiful rainbow, and we saw Swami come nearer and nearer and nearer. And I can remember putting letters up for him to take for healing for people, and he's not ready. And that was quite an incredible experience for me.
Yeah, the place did go dead silence when he arrived. I mean, we travelled across dirt tracks through anybody who's ever driven in India will know it's terrifying. Driving through the villages is even worse because they don't even have proper roads there. And you drive everywhere at 70 miles an hour, no matter whether it's a dirt track or not. No brakes, no nothing. Everything tied onto the top, ready to fall off. Seatbelts, no seatbelts, optional extras they were.
No windscreen wipers.
No. And you get there, we travelled for such a long distance, and then arrived there, and we weren't given any time. We were up for 3 o'clock, weren't we? We slept for a couple of hours, I seem to remember. You cleaned the whole room because Jane didn't like the idea of us going to India without sanitizing it all, so she'd actually packed her bags with bottles of bleach.
Toilet rolls
and everything. It was like Ajax. Everything was all in there.
Ajax?
Whatever, everything to clean the place. You just stripped the place. We cleaned every square inch, and we didn't get sick, I must say. When we were there, we were lucky we had a room because a lot of people would sleep in the cow sheds, weren't they?
Not cow sheds.
They called them the cow sheds.
Yeah,
they were sort of like
are.
bunks. So they used to be cow sheds. And then and then we actually go in there, and when we're absolutely so tired you could hardly open your eyes, and you're watching what seemed to be an incredible scene, because when he comes through and walks into the actual Mandir area where he walks around, I mean, like a light comes through from the early dawn light that seems to surround him with a light that makes him look like he's covered in a huge aura, and all the birds stop singing, all the monkeys stop chattering, all the people go dead silent. And it's like watching a spirit person walk in, isn't it? And he walks with a grace that is very hard to describe unless you've actually seen there, you know. And there's a certain connection. What Jane said is darshan means sight of God. It's like sight of the guru. The actual looking upon a holy man is considered to be something that will radically change your soul. There's a huge loads of stories one can tell about all this section that happened there. And really,
one of my favourite gurus is Sharavana.
Sharavana Baba. That's another one that we've got quite interested in. He's in. We didn't have to go to see him in India, but he's based in Kerala, and he was a really lovely man. We've seen him a number of times. He just reads your mind, doesn't he?
Well, he has strong telepathic thoughts. I can remember when I first met him, Craig said, Vivek, said that there's an Indian guru that's just coming up the road. You must meet him. How often does a guru come to England just up the road from you? So I thought,
actually, he came.
Craig, he keeps interrupting.
I need to explain what you mean.
I'm going to explain. Right. And I thought I'd get out Sunday cooking. So I said, yes, I'll go along. So we actually went to this most beautiful house, Indian house, and they had like a temple built in there with chandeliers, lovely Indian music. And like all gurus, you're waiting hours and hours for them to come. And I thought I'd sit at the back, just set out the way. And there was people from yoga school there and everything. Suddenly this sweet-looking man, about 36, walked through the door, and I thought, I know you from a past life. I definitely know you. And I was just thinking of my son at that time that married this Jewish girl, but we won't go there. And he suddenly walked up to me and handed me a rose and said, don't worry about your son. And of course, I was shocked. And then he wouldn't go. He stood there and he said, lady, give messages, lady, give messages. And then when we queued up to go and have a personal interview with him, he said, where's your rose? I said, it's in my heart, Swami, in my heart. And because Craig was asking 1,001 questions, as usual, weren't you? Yeah,
well, he seemed to think we knew each other from previous lives and things. And he said he'd been waiting for a long, long time to meet me, and vice versa. Us, well, yeah. Just you. And I had a right laugh with him, really, because what I liked about him is we could you could have a joke. And we were sat, you sit next to him and you sit close, and we're sort of very close. And literally, we were banging our heads together as we were talking. And when he said something funny, he'd go, boom, yeah. We were just laughing at the absurdity of it all, and it was funny. It was like a cosmic joke, as like in India they call it a leela. Yeah, can we see any thumbs ups or something so we know we've got people here, because our screen's frozen? But I know I can see some of you are here. Derek's here, and people at yeah. Well, I presume we're still broadcasting. It says we are. Yeah. So yeah, he was another interesting man. This is a man that came to us here in, like, Jane didn't want to see him at first, did you? And then he landed on our doorstep. I said, you've got to see him now, because he's here on our doorstep, you know. So it's got to happen, you know. So the mountain came to us, didn't it, really?
Well, yeah, and we met him about 5 times, and he's invited us to India. He's opening up an ashram there. He wants Craig to write a book about him.
Well, I've written something about him already in my book, Messages from the Universe, and he was really chuffed to see that in there. I don't know if I want to write a whole book about some, but I might write a book about Indian holy men later, because we met a few in our time, you see. Because
there's a holy man here, by coincidence.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jane's talking about the trip I went to India, the most recent one. I went to. This is a long story for those that don't know it, but I consulted an oracle called the Naadi oracle, which I've spoken about a lot on my YouTubes, that tells you all about your future, tells you the day you're going to die, tells me everything that's ever happened in my life in absolute 100% detail, named my mother, my father, my brother, without any possibility of being able to research anything on the internet, because I made 100% sure that couldn't be done, and did it through 3 different sources. Long and the short of it is, I went to India to do what's called remedies. Karmic remedies to clear the path. People consult the Naadi in order to find out what's holding back their progress. And at that particular time, there were lots of things holding back what I wanted to do. And it showed what to do. And you had these various remedies. And I went to India to do the remedies, which meant going to temples, which meant doing charitable work, giving food to children, feeding villages, giving away a cow and a calf, going to a home of backwards, well, you know, mentally challenged, handicapped children, and doing all sorts of charitable work, and at the same time doing a lot of magical work, doing fire remedies, and had to track holy men down and get messages from them, and did a real Indiana Jones sort of adventure.
And I'm going to cut in there, because Craig actually went over with a cameraman, and a lot of you might not know, but we actually own a film production company which is for spiritual films. And so we had the mystic journey to India, which Craig took to Cannes. They were very interested. You really must look at this. It's a real mind blower, because at the end of the day, it will open your eyes, really will, how incredible a journey it was.
Yeah, we took the cameraman. Actually, was from the BBC. He'd originally played Mr. Blobby. he used to be in the Mr. Blobby suit, you know. So we stormed India. We blobbied India. And he was a brilliant cameraman, very, very good at what he did, Simon. And over here we've got a film producer that works with us a lot called Louis. And when the opportunity came to go to India, I said, well, I've got to take a cameraman with me. I must take a cameraman. And we were able to film a large part of these incredible things that happened, which were just made an amazing movie. And that's why it's now on Amazon Prime. We published it. We took it to Cannes. We've been still fighting to get some broadcast for the mainstream. But I thought, well, we're going to put it on. We'll put it on Prime now because this has all taken such a long time to get it on other channels. But it's very popular. It's doing very well. But, you know, go and have a look at it. Amazon Prime is called Mystic Journey to India. Yeah.
I'm sorry that people come at me. I have a reading with you, but we're not doing readings online. We're actually talking about India. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, these Facebook Lives will be talks. They won't be readings. We might do a different thing for readings online, maybe some other time. But Facebook Live is just not a practical way to do it, really.
Well, what we are going to do in the future, we're going to do the theatres, but the money from that will go for diabetic children with diabetes type 1 and also to our foundation. So we will be doing that. You can come and watch us and see us and experience that then. Yeah,
because one of the things that all this experiences of India have shown me, particularly what was taught, because when you get to the true oracle, as it were, it's like speaking directly to the person that wrote it. Now, the people that wrote it were what called the old rishis, the Maharishis and rishis, and they were like avatars themselves. They had superhuman powers, and they write in such a way that it's like live talk. You know, one of the nadis is like the Jiva Nadi. Well, actually, the words will appear on the leaf as you ask the question. Sometimes they will even appear in English on the leaf as you ask the question. This is totally miraculous stuff I'm talking about here. Things that once you see it, once you know what's happening, you realize that these things go beyond common sense, beyond normal reality.
Real supernatural powers. It's unbelievable.
And they gave us a message, really, because at the time of consulting, I was concerned about, I obviously got to earn a living, but I've always wanted, when I went into doing mediumship and all the spiritual work, I had no interest whatsoever in earning from it. And I'd always wanted to do it just for the love of doing it. And this kind of gave us a way that we can do it. Obviously, Jane does her private readings and so forth. And I have my website, which brings us in income, and the books that bring us in income as well. And the film brings us some income. But we like to put some back as well. So the suggestion in the Naadi was that you're going to open up a charity and do it as a charity, a foundation. And we thought, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We'll open this foundation. We'll do it all for free. So when Jane talks about we'll do a theatre, we're going to raise anything we make from that. We give our time completely for free. And any profits we can make from it, and we hope to make not just little minimal profits, but we hope to make good profits from it, just like some of these others that went out and made themselves millionaires. We're going to give it all away, and we're going to give it all into charitable causes. And diabetes is one of those high on the list, because our daughter Danielle at the moment, our grandchild there has diabetes 1, which is not, that's something that's not caused by bad eating or anything. It's like it's not strictly inherited, but it's like an inherited type. You got it. Everything's right with you, except your body won't produce insulin. And so we thought, well, we'd like to raise some money for that as well. So she's at the moment raising money on Facebook. So have a look on our page here too, because she's trying to raise money just to help, with research.
If you look at Danielle Hamilton Parker, you'll see the charity for diabetes.
I saved it on this page, so if anybody found our Facebook page,
even if
you'll
somebody
find
gives £1 or something, it all helps those children, because we hope one day there'll be a cure for that, so nobody has to suffer in the future.
And one of the things, again, you learn from these India trips is that, a lot, not all of it, but a lot of what I had to do over there, in the Oracle gives you these remedies and says, you go and do this and you'll break your karma. And by doing these remedies, by doing these sort of charitable acts, they become kind of holy acts. So if you do it with that frame of mind yourself, when you do something charitable, you do it with this idea of total service to the divine, whatever sort of way you might see that divinity, in your own way, whatever your take on of divinity, if you do it with the idea of service to the divine, those charitable acts become something that do you tremendous good.
Karma.
Not just a little bit, but huge amounts of good. So you're doing tremendous good to others. Tremendous good comes out of you, and tremendous good comes back to you. It's a win-win situation. It's a totally selfish form of giving, really, because you're helping yourself even more than you're helping the person in front of you. It's easy, you know. So what else from India, Jane? What other things do you think from India to talk about? That was the kind of the theme tonight. Yeah. Have we got some? Can we have some ticks or something? We can't see your comments anymore.
We want hearts, great.
Well, whatever, hearts. Or give us some angry faces, even.
No, we don't want angry faces.
Most people give me angry faces.
We don't want angry faces. Most of the Indian people I've met, my experience, are really beautiful people because non-violent, and they can teach a lot of people here in the West an awful lot, really, with a high spirituality, non-violence, and helping each other, and families being close together, which is very important, I think, and good values, which is very important, good values, because we're seeing youngsters now with knives and shootings. I think there was a shooting today in LA, in California, a 15-year-old shooting 2 children in the head, and we don't want that. We can change things, we really can, by doing good things.
I've also seen here a question here from Deborah's saying, do you have a Naadi reader you'd suggest? Now, I know a few good Naadi readers. I know a few.
Michael.
I know a few also that I felt uncomfortable with, that far overcharge. And I know other ones that originally were very, very good, and since I've sent people to them, they've gone silly with the prices. And similarly, I've introduced people to genuine Naadi readers who have, and the Naadi readers had expenses that the person's not paid.
Yeah.
So, and also, this is one of the reasons I cannot recommend anybody. And also, it's so way out there in terms of the Trade Description Act. I mean, when it predicts deaths and things like that, I can't recommend anybody under any circumstances because of that alone.
But also, it's not just having a reading, it's like doing good things as well, because these priests have to go into the temples and pray and do mantras, and they have to do remedies to change your life. So, you know, they work very, very hard, the genuine Naadi readers. The genuine
Naadi readers do tremendous work. Sometimes they charge nothing. Sometimes they'll give their Naadi leaves away to another person. The leaves have said to a Naadi reader, your time as a Naadi reader is finished. You must pass these leaves on and give the address of the person they've got to take them to. And the leaves are taken to another person that becomes the custodian of the Naadi leaves. So they're very holy things. It's not something you can just stick on the internet and go and get something off the internet, because woe betide you, because there is so many out there that are just completely fraudsters. There's a few genuine ones on the internet too, but you know, and don't go to them if they just got my face up there, because not all of them that I've been to have been good. I've had some bad experiences too, but the ones that I do get on with, and the ones that I do know good, I will give personal introductions to sometimes once I get to know the person really well. The person that, i.e., that somebody I've met, I know face to face, and I can take them on my journey with me, as it were, to teach the teachings. So that will be people. Yeah. So at the moment, it's just friends and family.
Yeah. But Queen Victoria was quite interested in Indian culture, though she never stepped to India, as far as I know. But she had a very faithful servant, didn't she, that taught her how to speak. Was it not Hindu, Telugu? Or yoga, Telugu. Yeah. And she had a love of India because she found a spiritual pathway that helped her. But once again, getting back to the leaves and things like that, if these leaves tell you the time you're going to die and things like that, you can change that. But the remedies are quite expensive. We're talking about £1,300 upwards.
Well, it depends what you're going to do. You see, if you're giving away cows and you're feeding, you're helping build hospitals, you're building temples, there can be all sorts of levels of it. So you've got to be very careful, because a Naadi reader that's not true might start stitching you up, you know, might have some fake leaves or might have real leaves that he adds extras into. And if that corruption could get to the point where you're forking out many thousands of pounds. So that's why, again, you know, I have to do it only for people I know very, very closely, because I'm only going to recommend and help people along the path with that. I'd help the whole world if I could, but I mean, only those that are really seeking. But you can find it if you want to. Go to India and you can start searching down the Naadi libraries there, and you'll find them that way. This is
why it's so important. If you can download this on Amazon to see Craig's journey and to see what the yogis, rishis and holy men have to say about world events. Very important.
Yeah, you can download it from Amazon, but you can just go onto Amazon Prime. You can watch it for free if you're on Amazon Prime. You can watch it tonight. It's on America and UK at the moment. It's not on Japan and Germany at the moment, or it might be Australia. You can get it from .com there, I think. But yeah, you can go and watch it for free if you're on Amazon Prime because it's in your membership. And I'd be interested to see your comments too, those of you who've seen it, because you'll see a very different me to the one you see here and the one you know, because it was just totally transforming. I mean, one of the most interesting things in that whole video, I thought, was when we had Mr. Prakash, who was my Naadi reader for it, was he was doing the remedies for me. He hadn't done all my Naadi, so there were many of the Naadis he didn't know about that I'd already had told me. And it was interesting because things were being shown to me that he didn't know anything about, but the holy men did. And the Naadi said at one point that we had to find a holy man. And Mr. Prakash was using his sat-nav, like using his Naadi leaves like a sat-nav, that it would tell us where we had to go. So we were getting in the car and driving to the spot where we felt the holy man was, you know. And then what happens? We get to the spot, we go up this hill where they're trying to find, and then the car bursts in, it just spluttered to a stop. And it broke down, and we get out, and we're all barefoot, walking on this red hot sand, and turn along. And what happens? The holy man literally walks out of the bushes and walks between us, like whoomp, just in front of us. What he looks and like. He's got this. He looks like Marge Simpson haircut, you know, and it's all a matted, great mass of knotted dreadlock type hair. His whole body is covered in ash. He's got eyes that are as red as fire. You know, they're deep red. The white of his eyes is just red. He looks terrifying, man. He's got a sort of kind of a growly sort of look on his face. You know, he walks with a sort of slow but sort of
like the juju man
look to him. You know, and he just walked through us and we followed him. And walked to the temple that he was heading for, where he gave, well, again, like Sai Baba did, where he gave darshan to his devotees. Now, he hadn't been to that temple, we found out, for a good 6 months to a year, I think it was. He hadn't, and he turned up at that very time that we happened to arrive. And this hadn't been pre-planned. And so we followed him with the cameras. Amazingly, you know, and we got the shots of this all happening. And he goes around, there's all this clattering, banging on all these drums and things, and he goes around to all the shrines. And when the Hindus go to a shrine, they're not all sort of, oh, you know, it's all loud, it's bang everything, it's wake the gods up, you know, you have to wake them up, you know.
So you should do that for you in the morning, then. Wake you up.
Well, anyway, we went around all the temple, and then I thought, oh, it's all finished then, so what's that? Is he going to say anything? And there was all these fire type things going on as well, because he sleeps in a pit of fire. He will lay in a fire and sleep in it. There's footage. I haven't got the footage of that, but there is footage out there of him doing this. Amazing stuff. And I thought, well, that's all finished now. You know, perhaps we got to go. I'm just thinking, oh, that's a bit disappointing. I was hoping he might have said something. And then someone comes over, you've been called. And we pull us all over to the holy man. And you touch his feet. So he stood up and a sort of bit higher to me on a platform, and I touch his feet. And he's jabbering on in Tamil and shouting at some boy that was up causing trouble and things. And then says a few more things in Tamil. He didn't even look at me. And I thought, oh, well, perhaps he's not even noticed me. And I go off. And Mr. Prakash comes over. He said all sorts of things. He's told you all sorts of things. And he said, he gave me a quick précis of what it was all about. But later on, we went to another temple and we were able to sit down and talk. And he described all the things that the man had said. And, you know, he said exactly the same things that had been said in the very first Naadi reading I had had, that Mr. Prakash didn't know anything about, because it was by another Naadi reader in another part of India and wasn't in his own Naadi leaves. So that was another confirmation that, you know, Siddha yogi, they have special powers, like Siddhi. They have these special powers, like the sleeping in the fire. Amazing stuff, you know, and it was all captured on camera. So I thought, well, that movie is meant to be. I'm bringing through with that movie information to the West that very few people know about. And the Naadi itself said you will access information that even the holy men don't know. So it's like stuff is being revealed here that is meant for this age, when we are in a time of difficulty and crisis, when the world is at a very dangerous point.
Explain about the moon last night, what happened in India.
Oh yeah, there's this. So I don't know if any of you know it, but there's a special moon at the moment. And in India, it coincides, I can't remember the name of the actual name of the celebration, but the full moon last night is for the god Murugan, right? So that's a very special time. And in India at the moment, they're going sort of wild about this because it's very powerful. Any mantras you say 2 days since, so today and tomorrow are still powerful days. Any mantra or prayer that is made in that time can have tremendous power, and is supposed to have tremendous power. Now, I've only really found this out recently, but so I sort of made a prayer for Damien, who's got the diabetes, and I said to Sai Baba, "Can you cure diabetes? Not just for Damien, but for everybody. Cure diabetes. Give me a sign." Right? Today, what happens is I am given a pack from India that arrives full of vibhuti from Sai Baba, full of photographs of Sai Baba, and a picture, and written on the back, it says that this picture can cure children of any illness. Oof. Right. How on earth does that synchronize like that? It arrives on the very day that I make the wish, or make the hope, or the prayer, or whatever you want to call it, the mantra, to make these things. It's sort of like a miracle happens just in that sheer coincidence. So it makes you wonder. So, if you've got any problems, today's the day to send your thoughts out to the universe.
Not lucky numbers.
No, not that nonsense. Well, you'll get that, but you get the wrong things back. And it won't always come in the form you think.
I think what we need is world peace, isn't it, really?
Well, there's always world peace. Well, we need a smaller population.
All over the world.
So I don't know how we're going to do that
all over the world.
Nicely. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've been going off. Any thoughts? Anybody want to make some comments?
I
don't know if our
we just love
thoughts, comments you want to make on interact
hearts?
With us.
It's frozen, I think.
I got a feeling we're frozen. I saw Sally come on last. I don't know if that's the last person to have joined it.
10% hearts. They can hear us.
So we'll talk a little bit more about India, shall we?
Yeah.
We won't stay for ages. It depends how many hearts we get. The other time I went, do you want to talk any more about what your thoughts? I mean, you're interested,
doing all right.
But you're interested in India in a different way, you see, because you don't.
I like the spirituality.
You don't always have to go there, do you, to have connected to it?
Who's that angry face? Is that you, Daniel?
Yeah, I don't mind angry ones.
I do. I like hearts from the heart chakra. Who's this?
What did the Naadi say about the future of the world? Well, that's an interesting one, because
we keep freezing up on screen, it says.
Oh, do you keep freezing? Okay, I just saw the one about the history of the world. I am very interested in the history of the world.
The lovely hearts.
A lot of stuff has been revealed in the Nadis, but a lot of it's been told that it's not to be shown yet.
Well, that's going to frighten people.
No, well, it's not going to be an easy journey ahead, but the Nadis are there for quite some time yet, so it's not there's
have no fear.
But it's not all bad, See, the thing is, it's not about the material world. What is the world? The material world is part of it. The whole of existence is here for one reason, and that is the evolution of consciousness. It's all here for the evolution of awareness, and that is invincible. That cannot change.
And we also believe all is one, and life is an illusion here.
Well, this is just that. This world itself is, like you say, it's an illusion as well. So if we just get ourselves fixed at the material world,
and you're not a hallucination, are you?
No. Well, as far as I'm aware, I could be. You see, I might just be a figment of everybody's mind. I might not exist, or vice versa. You lot might not exist. That's where it gets complicated when you start talking about, the nature of consciousness, because you have to take into account other people's consciousness.
Yeah. Well, I think we all experience many things in life. I mean, you don't have to go to India. As Craig says, you might be interested in Indian things. Because I know when I go and see Sharavana, there's some beautiful Indian people and children. They say, "Auntie, auntie, you must be Indian in past life. You like glittery things." You know, because I can remember my grandmother, and I think she must have been Indian in past life. She used to always put curry in mashed potato, but she wouldn't have peacock feathers in the house because she thought they were bad luck.
Well, she wouldn't have been Indian because that's Murugan.
No, because the third eye is just all by superstition, and that where I used to collect them and bring them in the house.
Yeah, but you see, I think I mean, India's not the only way to the truth either. But the thing with India is that, you know, it just about every question I've ever had about the nature of things, you can find the answers in those Indian
they're
stories.
Very cruel to elephants. I didn't see
they are.
Cruel.
No, they are.
Not in Sai Baba's.
No. Sai Baba had his own pet elephant that was not.
Elephants are very intelligent creatures, and if they find another elephant, perhaps that's been dead, they cry for it. They're beautiful creatures.
I mean, they are bad to their elephants though, because I mean, I went to one temple. It was an amazing temple. I mean, the fabulous. I can't remember the name of it. The names are so difficult. Might be able to thumb and find it while I'm talking.
You don't have to.
Oh, no, that's not important. But this temple has I can't remember how many wells it was, but it's full of wells, 27 wells.
Oh, what, and they spray you with water with their trunks.
What you do is you have this cleansing from the wells. They put a bucket of water from each well. Usually it's a spoonful, but Mr. Prakash handed the priest a bit of money so that I got a bucket full at every single station. So
that's a bucket challenge.
It was like ice cold water thrown over me 27 times or however many it was. It wasn't quite that many because I think some of the wells were outside. And each well has a different energy to it, and they pour the water over you each time. And actually, it was an amazing feeling. And because I was so connected, I so opened up to it all that for me, it was a complete, and because it was all part of the Naadis, and because this event had been predicted thousands of years ago to happen at that moment, you know, it was for me a tremendously powerful synchronization. But on the way in, there's an elephant. You turn around the corner, you go through this dark temple, and it's all full of smoke, and there's light pouring down through the smoke. It's a real X-Files sort of scene, like Indiana Jones again, with all these strange carvings in black, and all the walls are black with the smoke from the fires inside the temple. And then you walk round the corner, and you go around this big pillar, and then there's this elephant, and I'm confronted, literally stood in front of an elephant before you go in, and the elephant puts his trunk out and taps you on the head like that, and then takes his trunk back, and then you give the donation, you hold the donation up to the elephant like that, and he comes over and takes it in his trunk and puts it into the pot. I mean, you get a lot more in the collection plate in a Christian church, wouldn't you, if you had an elephant in there? But those elephants I read have been abused to do that trick,
well,
which
that
is a
worries
shame.
me.
Yeah.
But I don't like to see elephants in circuses or anything.
No, I mean, we saw them in Thailand that
cruel,
time. It was
horrifying.
horrifying. We went to what we thought was a circus sort of thing, but we didn't realise it was all elephants standing on each other's back in a huge pyramid. Yeah. It was terrifying for the elephants. God knows how they got them to do that.
I don't like seeing animals caged, actually.
No, so it's always sad.
Even
the lovely
birds.
magical idea of elephants and the magical idea of Indian elephants and things is a shame, but
the Indian elephants are different to the South African elephants.
They're totally different animals in a way. That a better form of transport in India, of course, is the driving. Every time you drive, you really do take your life in your hands. I didn't actually drive, but wherever we went, my God, the driving there is terrifying. And even you had some of that, didn't you?
Well, I sat in a car waiting for Craig to come out of this hotel, and 3 strange Indian men jumped in the car, and I thought they were going to take me off up the mountains or somewhere, because a lot of them aren't educated, you see, so it's not their fault. And they're just pretending to drive. That was quite a scary experience.
There's things we saw. I remember driving the 2 lorries coming towards us like this, and we went through the middle. Last minute they went aside. We're driving towards 2 big lorries, straight through the middle of them. And then there was another one where I remember.
Interesting what Michael's just said.
I remember also going. They were tarmacking the road in what I remember in southern India when I was we were driving along. They were tarmacking this road, and we were all driving over the red hot tarmac, turning it all up with our wheels as we're trying to honk. You hit your horn for everything. We're honking the roadworks as they're driving along, laying this tar. and we're tearing it up quicker than they can lay it.
Yeah. And Michael was
Hilarious.
asked, have you been to other Asian countries, China, Mango, to a similar spiritual? Well, we hope to go to Tibet. We have met the Dalai Lama, so we are hoping to go to Tibet.
We went
one
to
day.
we mentioned Thailand. That was
Yes.
fabulous, actually. Thailand was a tremendous experience as well. But of course, Thailand's Buddhist, although there's a strong Hindu influence there too. There's quite a few Hindus there as well. It was lovely. It was more of a holiday resort, though, Thailand, from what we saw.
More full of plastic Buddhas.
Yeah, yeah. But it was still lovely. Some of those temples were beautiful. We saw in Thailand. Yeah, I'd like to do the tour of the East more.
We probably will go to China next year because we're going to go to the China Wall and meet. Oh, I have spiritual leaders, haven't we?
What's that?
Lily's great grandfather.
On the spiritual histories, he says.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's a history.
we should be welcoming China, because actually depends, because the politics are different there. But with some of the Chinese leaders, the relatives of some of the great Chinese leaders have seen Jane in the past. So that would be interesting. But that'd be another story for another time. That's Taoism, which is another fascinating religious. So it's not really religious, spiritual system.
And Taoist.
Yeah, Taoism. Yeah. So India. That was our thoughts to talk tonight about India as our theme. Any questions? Or any ideas? Any thoughts? Because you can keep us fed with some ideas for more to say and talk about. Unless we're frozen again, we might be frozen because often we look after us. Yeah.
Craig.
So.
Well, talk about, from your personal experience.
Well, I can talk about there's tons I can talk about it, of course, because I've been all over India, and I went up all through the north of India too.
What about
up through Rishikesh was a fabulous place.
And talk about the Ganges.
Went white water rafting up there, and that's not the normal thing I do. But the group I was with were well into the idea of that anything goes, and 14 of us got into one. What they call them, rickshaw thing, the tuk-tuk. Yeah, 14 of us got onto a tuk-tuk. 14 yogis onto a tuk-tuk. So that took some doing, and we got there and went white water rafting. Absolutely no safety gear whatsoever at all. You're just there with a rope to hold on to, or they gave you a hat.
That's not for me. I wouldn't be doing
we
that.
did have a life vest, but it was also antiquated. And then you go down this terrifying Ganges trip. Another group that went later, they overturned and they were all floating down the river in despair.
Talk about when
the Ganges, though. You see, that was the top end of the Ganges. When you get to the very by the source, where Rishikesh is quite way up the Ganges, and if you go further up, you're not going to get much pollution in it because the towns further upstream are limited, and the water there is actually beautifully clean, and you can completely submerge yourself in the Ganges water, because they say that it clears you of sins of past lives again, and that while you're in the water of the Ganges, you're actually completely pure. The problem is you step out again and you're no longer pure.
Noki Okra Ishina. Have you been to Japan? No, but
not yet. We hope to.
We
actually
will go to Japan.
Yeah, we've got some plans for that. We're thinking about. But so the Ganges that end is beautiful. But when you go down to Varanasi, that's where they start putting the bodies in. And that water there, there were young boys. When you row down the Varanasi to get back and forth, it's quicker to go down the river. And all the time, there's boys popping up out of the water begging for money.
What about you seeing the bodies being?
And then we saw the bodies.
cremated?
We stayed on the Sindhi Ghat, where they actually burned the bodies. And underneath the Sindhi Ghat, there's these holy men. And there was one man that some of these holy men are pretty horrible holy men, really, because they believe. I can't remember what they call the group now. It can't come to mind. But some of them are cannibalistic, and they live. They live as bad as they possibly can, in order to break the idea is to break their attachment to the world by making the world so dreadful in a way,
like demonic things.
And one of them looked up at me, and he looked me in the eye, and it nearly knocked me off my feet. I tell you, it was absolutely terrifying. He had a power in his look to me that really knocked me flat. I dreamed of him once. I woke up and saw him at the bottom of the bed. I didn't tell you about that, but I thought, what the hell's
Where
this
did
all
you see him?
about?
At
At our house years ago, after I come back.
Well, he'd be chased out the door.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
but I mean, it was a strange place. Varanasi was strange and beautiful at the same time, because I went to all the places where Yogananda had been there. Ananda May, we went to see the places where she was.
Very interesting.
And Trilinga Baba Swami was another one we saw them. He was a man that used to submerge himself in the Ganges water. I believe he submerged himself for 3 weeks without taking a breath, something like that. Or he buried himself for 3 months as well. He used to be able to do these incredible things. We went to the room where it was just literally a cellar that he lived in, and we were let into.
Wasn't he living on light?
And that's another one. That's the one in southern India called Ramalinga Swami. They're very similar. Yeah, that's Ramalinga Swami. Trilingam Swami is the one in Varanasi. Very similar names.
Oh, somebody says, sorry, Craig and Jane, screen keeps freezing.
Does it? So you're getting frozen screen, but it might not be for everybody. It might be your reception, possibly. So it depends on your internet connection. So hopefully it's okay.
So it's gremlins again.
Yeah, we're talking about some strange things here, and perhaps it's not for everybody's ears. Yeah, so there's some interesting people. Worth looking up some of those holy men and finding out the stories about them. Trilinga Swami was a big fat man. The police arrested him once. They had some problem or something or other, and they could not put him in a prison. Now, whatever prison he went, they always find him sat on the roof. Wherever they put him, they'd always see him sat on the roof. Big bloke that could never climb that high because he was huge, So he had incredible powers. And all these stories are not just stories, because they've been verified by a lot of people.
There's some Indian people that actually levitate.
Oh yeah, Agori sadhus. That's
yes.
it. Thank you, Derek. That's the ones that live in the ashes. I could never remember. I couldn't remember their name for a while. Interesting people. Good things to have a look up on Google, because those guys are out there and really do what they say.
Masters and gurus, because they all lead to one pathway and lead to God, don't they?
Yeah, all places lead. All paths lead to the same mountaintop, don't they? Really.
Yeah.
So whatever techniques you use, whatever places you go to, whatever religious path you follow, or non-religious path, even atheism, even science, it all leads to the same place. It leads to the same realization, the same understanding. Although actually there's quite a few things that differ between Hinduism and Buddhism, because Buddhism does not believe in the self as such. It does not believe in the soul. It does not believe in the continuation of life after death necessarily. The Buddha never actually spoke about that. Because it believes that the very idea of the self is an illusion. The self has no independent existence. But in Hinduism, they believe that, well, there's different sections of belief, but that's the main followers believe in the idea that there is nonetheless a sort of like a soul state. There is also an individual soul, which simultaneously is part of the absolute soul.
The atom.
Yeah, kind of. It's like there's, it is and it isn't. It's a paradox in a way.
Consciousness.
Yeah, but I don't think any of them can get their head around it. I don't think Buddha could even express it, because it's beyond expressible in many respects. And I see lots of people arguing about all these things all the time, and I think, well, they've probably got the wrong end of the stick with most of it, because they're just following a belief system, what they've read from other people.
You've got to go through your own personal journey.
That's it. You've got to realise it for yourself, and you've got to wipe away everybody else's ideas, all Indian ideas, all gurus,
and have no attachments.
And just, ultimately, you've got to do it for yourself. Yeah. You've got to do it for yourself. You've got to realise for yourself what the truth is, because if you think you've realised it and you're still talking about other people's experiences, well, then you've not had the direct experience yourself. But these things can lead you. India, why reinvent the wheel? Because India, in my book, has cracked most of the major questions. It seems to have done it. And when you see these, and you know if a person's enlightened because they have spiritual powers. If they don't have the spiritual powers, then maybe they've only attained a certain level of understanding and realization. With realization comes the ability to, like sleeping fires, it comes the ability to have these superhuman powers, because they come naturally. Not that those are the goal, because those things must be thrown away because they will hold you back if you take those things as the goal. But those things will naturally appear in a person that's realized. So when I see these holy men that can sleep in fires, and I read the stories of holy men that can be in two places at the same time, that can become the size of an atom or become huge, people that have superhuman strength, that can have direct understanding of a person's mind and read every single thought in a person, those are powers. But those powers come because that person has attained something that ordinary rationality, ordinary Western thought can't get anywhere near.
Because Indian people believe in black magic as well, and dark forces, don't they? Believe that families are cursed if things go wrong. People put hexed on them, and it goes back in previous incarnations, don't they?
Yeah, you've had that a lot when Indian people have come to see you for readings, don't you? They talk about getting curses lifted off, which gets a bit difficult for us in the West, because obviously we're not allowed to do that type of thing. You're not allowed to be a witch or something in the Trade Descriptions Act and offer those sort of services. In India, anything goes. And the Naadi oracles also talk a lot about black magic, and they said that I will help people with black magic curses, which is something I've avoided like the plague, because there's so much of that is often tied up with mental health. But I believe those things can be true too. And I've seen things like that. Like that man, what was his name? Derek Agori, wasn't it? Agori sadhus from they had powers, you know.
Well, Aleister Crowley tried to do all that too, didn't he? That's another story.
Well, Aleister Crowley got into a lot of the Indian stuff and twisted it around.
Well, he's into drugs.
Well, that as well, but he was also into
LSD.
Well, he was into Kriya Yoga, about bringing the energy up the spinal column. But he would also engage in his debauched sexual activities at the same time,
trying to use prana
to trigger the energy.
Yeah, prana energy.
But that's going. I don't want to go down the Aleister Crowley route and talk about all that, because that man, in the end, where did he end up? He ended up in Eastbourne in a clapped-out old house, didn't he? And so he didn't really come to much, did he?
Money went.
Yeah, and certainly on that level. Yeah, so that just goes to show.
But India, if you do get the opportunity to go to India, do go. Everybody, it's a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to tourist India. I mean, you won't see India, but you'll see the sights of India. But really, I think to go to India, Bangalore's, all of it's lovely, but you've got to get there with the people. You've got to, like, the Indian restaurants, right? Now, over here, we have the foods we have in this country, what we call Indian restaurants, is food from Pakistan and Bangladesh. It's not Indian food. When we got the Indian food, it was almost pretty much the same. You'd give you a banana leaf, and you'd have about 8 or 9 different little blobs put on there, and they're all vegetarian. Some were curried, some weren't very curried. They're all different tastes. And what they used to do is they used to take a bit of that one, and it all be on your banana leaf, take a bit of that one, take a bit of that one, take a bit, mix them up in the middle, make sure you rub the top of the leaf, because the actual banana leaf itself is supposed to have healing properties, and eat the food. And each of these foods has different qualities to it that they understood. So they said, well, eat some of that. If you suffer from bad tummy, you want that and that, but don't have any of that. Or if you have bad eyesight, you want more of this and more of that, more of that. So you want guava fruit for bad eyes and things like. So that all that when we were eating, not just the people, not just the astrologers, but general people with me knew what foods you could and couldn't eat. They were eating foods for health. And all of it was vegetarian, and I could have easily gone fully vegetarian.
If you download this, you'll see all that food.
Oh yeah, I don't know if there's a bit on there, but yes, there is. Yes, yeah, there feed a lot of people.
And you see Craig breaking coconuts with the Indian masters and things like that, and it's incredible. You must see it.
Yeah, it is worth going. You can get it on Amazon.co.uk, on Amazon.com. You can search it under videos there if you're not on Amazon Prime. Or if you're on Amazon Prime, you can just go and watch it now, like I say. When you watch it, we obviously get a small amount for the stream. If you go and buy it, we get more. And if you go and make a comment on there, that's always appreciated, because if you've watched it, you've enjoyed it, and you give it a good rating, that helps it to go up the list, so more people will be encouraged to watch it. Yeah, Mystic Journey to India. I think I mentioned that already.
Have you now? Indiana Jones on the back.
Yeah, but yeah, it was quite incredible, and it kind of happened. It wasn't planned, you see. That's the whole thing. When Michael Palin went to India, he had a whole team, and they'd have people scouting it. They just so happened to go into the village, and the person would come out and greet him, and they just so happened to be given a place to play in the local football team. And
yours
things,
was a real
all
happening.
set up. But ours, we didn't know where the hell we were half the time. We did about 2,000 miles.
I don't think you do now, do you, Craig?
But I definitely didn't know where I was in India. If someone said to me, "Where are you in India now?" I don't know. I don't know if I'm in the middle. I don't know if I'm on the coast. And, sometimes we'd be driving, suddenly there's the sea. And I'm thinking, God, I thought we were thousands of miles from that, So it was amazing. And that was because we were just being taken. We weren't going in any orderly way either. We were going back and forth, left and right, zigzagging around places, because we were having to go to the places the Naadi told us to do the rituals. Yeah. And we were completely confused. We tried, and the Indian language is always funny too, because you never understand what they're saying.
Someone's got to go. Deborah.
Yeah. Anything?
Deborah's interested in reading your book.
Yeah, you're going to watch the movie tonight. Well done. Now there's at least one person there.
I think if you're really going on a spiritual pathway, it's really, really intriguing. It may not be for you, it may be for you, who knows, but you'll enjoy it. Opens your eyes, and I think it's the finest thing you can do if you travel around the world.
I think travel's great. I mean, it's not we've traveled a lot. We're off again soon. I mean, my granddad was an explorer. He went to Nigeria, and he used to map the he was in the Ordnance Corps and would map areas of Nigeria that nobody had ever been to. He was the first white man in some of these villages, and he'd met cannibals. He had to put his trig point on sacred mountains that nobody wanted to go up. He used to tell me incredible stories about how he was stuck in the middle of nowhere and how he got out of situations, how he had to shoot his horse when it got ill because he had no other choice. Little boy picking up all these stories, And it got in my blood as well, I think, and because there's explorers that go right back through the family. Actually, right, we mapped the parallel line that goes across Canada and America and so forth in our family, and a lot were sailors, of course, and pirates even.
One another.
Yeah, and one of our family was even eaten at sea, and Edgar Allan Poe wrote the story about it. So so it's there in the blood, I think, but. Travel, my granddad used to say, there's no better education than travel.
It's true.
And it's true. It opens your mind to other cultures. You don't have prejudices against other cultures and other religions because you see them. You realize that, sometimes me and Jane, when we were in Bangalore, we had some problems, and our necks was saved by an Arab man, wasn't it? A Muslim man in India, when he sorted it all out, and we gave him the money, and he went off, and he went off with all our money and came back with it.
Trusted. You've got to trust.
And I thought, well, that's a good man, Yeah. So travel will, break down your barriers that we illusionary put up towards other people and places. I mean, there's so many places in the world, even places like Malta. I mean, those stone in Gozo, those amazing sculptures, and the history of some of those places, right? And in Europe, places just as mysterious as India.
Well, I think we're going to go now and have a nice cup of tea. And thank you for joining us. And heartfelt love to you all. Sairam.
Yeah, and see you soon, folks. Yeah, and did we mention about Mystic Journeys to India that they could watch that tonight? Not. Maybe we'll watch that ourselves. No, I could repeat it off by heart. Okay,
dreams.
See you all soon, folks.
Ciao.
Bye for now.
I have discovered a secret oracle in India that has on it the name of my mother, the name of my father, my name, my brother's name, my wife's name, all the details about my life from the moment I was born and right into the future. And it even tells me the time of my death. And to access this oracle, all it needed was my thumbprint. I'm here in India on my first mystic journey. In the UK and USA, Jane and I are known as the most psychic couple on the planet.
I really enjoyed the reading with Craig because he hit some real accuracies about my father and our relationship.
I've been a psychic medium for years. We have both had a fruitful life and seen many mystical things, but my trip to India has certainly opened even my eyes. As psychics, we have both been invited to do many TV shows about the paranormal, but what I'm about to experience in India is absolutely astonishing. So astonishing that even my wife Jane couldn't get her head round it. I have come to India to visit its temples and to do its rituals and change my fate. Everything the Oracle has told me about my life so far is astonishing. What it has to say is so mind-boggling that I feel compelled to make this crazy journey in order to undertake the magical remedies it prescribes. I want to find out if these Naadi leaves are a myth or the real thing. And if so, maybe I can uncover their secrets and discover if they can help other people too. On this journey, I meet a holy man who sleeps in a raging fire and is claimed will live for hundreds of years. This Siddhi yogi never eats, lives in a cave, and few people ever get to meet him. I am guided by 2 astrologers that help me clear my karma and explain to me the rituals that I must undertake. I am stunned by the beautiful landscapes and overwhelmed by the magical temples and mystic places. I love the people and the animals of India. I am visiting places where few Westerners ever go. It's a cultural shock and spiritual awakening. I feel an overwhelming inner transformation. Will I find the guiding light I need? My search takes me thousands of miles across India's breathtaking landscapes, and I see magnificent things. To clear my karma, the Oracle has told me to do charitable work, undertake magical rituals and remedies. This is the adventure of a lifetime. This is my mystic journey.